Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Empowered by Ems podcast. I'm your host, Emily Kandanga, and today I'm so excited because I am joined by a very, very lovely, I want to say young woman because Sarah's young at heart, and I just love her energy, and I can immediately connected with it when we were in our Pleasure Rebel container. It was a business mastermind container that we were in last year. And she just stood out to me. She had very vivacious, very carefree, very childlike in a very beautiful way, though. Like, it's not like, it's very, yeah, we're all children at heart. So my inner child connected with yours very deeply. So we're going to be chatting all about body. You're cultivating a healthy relationship with your body. And I'd just like to take a moment and introduce Sarah. Sarah has overcome years of disordered eating, low self-esteem, reckless behavior, and has healed through the power of the spiritual connection to herself. Through her own healing journey, she has been inspired to empower other women to release the chains of self-doubt and anxiety, and to build a healthier relationship with food and their higher selves. A lover of all things manifestation and magic, Sarah loves to incorporate these into her daily life as well as her coaching practice. So, welcome to the podcast, Sarah. It is so lovely to have you. Thank you for being here with me today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for the intro. And yeah, I feel like we definitely kind of just have so much in common, and it's crazy because we're on completely opposite sides of the world. And that's the great thing about masterminds and about being in containers like that, is that you can connect with people so far away and realize we have so much in common. And yeah, I'm just super excited to come on today and to share a little bit about my story, my history, and what I'm working on now to help others.
Amazing. So, Sarah, thank you so much once again for being here with me. So, can you share a little bit about your personal journey from struggling with disordered eating and low self-esteem to where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in the 90s. I was in high school, like in college in the early 2000s. And what I was seeing was a lot of like the media portraying like extremely skinny models as the epitome of, what is attractive and what is good looking. And in high school, I started working out and lifting weights, and I found that I immediately started getting attention from not only boys, but also girls, and kind of went from nerdy to cool. And to me, I think that what that enforced in my young brain was that my worth is based off of my appearance, and that stuck with me for a very long time. And when I went to college, I developed an eating disorder just due to the stress and just a lot of factors, not feeling like I was really like in control. I don't think that I was well prepared for college, and just had a lot of things that led to me developing an eating disorder. And when I didn't feel in control of my body and I felt like I gained weight, I did gain weight, that really took a hit to my self-worth and my self-esteem, because I only equated my value to my appearance. And if I didn't have a fit body, then I wasn't worthy, or I didn't have, people wouldn't be, they wouldn't like me, wouldn't be attracted to me. And that kind of set me on this spiral, because I was bulimic, and a lot of times with bulimia, it actually doesn't help you to be skinny or fit. And it does, eating disorders do a lot to the chemicals in your brain. And I developed, I don't know if it's like the chicken or the egg, which came first, but I also suffered with like depression and anxiety. And I dealt with that for 12 years.
Wow.
So throughout my entire 20s and into my early 30s. And I also in my 20s, started working at a gym. I started getting really into like bodybuilding and fitness and did a few bodybuilding shows, but my head was not in the right place for that. I wanted to do it so I could control my appearance. It wasn't about, being my healthiest self, being my fittest self. It was about being thin and being
Mm,
fit. Because
mm,
again, I felt that was the only way that people would like me. And if I think that the competing industry, it's definitely blown up, obviously, with Instagram and with everything. It can be it can be good for people that have a healthy relationship with food. I think most people don't have a healthy relationship with food. And it's like throwing gasoline on a fire if you are coming into it from a place of like disordered eating
eating.
or relationship with food. And so that kind of just made things way worse before they got better.
Mm,
And throughout this whole time, I was in therapy. I always asked for help. I tried to get help, but I found that like talk therapy just didn't, even being on medication didn't like help me. What really helped me was when I actually started seeing an Eastern medicine psychiatrist, and he started to help me with meditation. And he said, you know, you should try meditation,
wow.
and that was like the first thing that like really allowed me to quiet the inner critic in my mind that was completely, louder than anything. And allowed me to like start to cultivate a connection to myself that I never had that like really deep connection to myself, to Sarah, to my values, to my worth. It was always external.
Yeah.
And so that was like the catalyst to really help me heal.
That is such a beautiful story. Oh my gosh. I resonated with so much. Um, and I think I had a mini revelation while you were talking because I was like, oh my God, did I have I think I did. I think it's because when I started working out too, it was from a fear of gaining weight and like becoming obese because in my family a lot of people are big boned and they tend to just put on a lot of weight, poor eating habits, not moving, and like not an active lifestyle at all. So I was just it was like shock therapy. I was just pushed into it. And I can relate with that so much in terms of having this love for exercise and wanting to do this thing, but then having it be from not necessarily the right place. It's not coming from a place of self-love. It's not coming from a place of wanting to celebrate what your body can do and just yeah. Oh, thank you so much for sharing your journey, Sarah. Wow.
Yeah, of course. And I know like on the other side of the eating is like people that have a poor relationship with exercise, and like see it as a form of punishment, have this like connection in their brain that it's, or that it's something that they have to do. And so that also really shifted for me. I was like an obsessive calorie counter, and every workout was like, how many calories am I going to burn
Wow.
to
Yeah.
ate what I ate? And so, I mean, I just had to do like a hard reset on all of that. And what I had to do to allow my metabolism to heal was gain weight. I mean, I ended
Yeah.
up gaining weight, and I had to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And that was the hardest thing, was being like, I have to be okay with gaining weight in order to let my metabolism heal. And
Mm.
it probably took me 7 years
Oh my
personally
God.
after 12 years of disordered eating. It's going to take a while for your
To
body to get
reset.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, to reset. And then, I mean, I just am so grateful that I'm at a place now where I feel really like, is my body perfect? No, but am I healthy and I'm happy? And I don't stress about my body like at all.
Hmm.
And I know that I can take care of myself. And that's the biggest thing.
I love that. What are some of the things that you did to in those 7 years?
So again, like being completely accepting of my body and being grateful for it. So instead of beating myself up, criticizing myself, I had to like flip that script around and start to just give myself so much self-love
Mm,
and recognize my inherent self-worth beyond my appearance. So really like a meditation helped me with that so much. I got really just deep into meditation. I'd always been a journaler, but my journaling took a different form where instead of complaining, I was talking about the future. I started doing things like future scripting and visualizing what I wanted my life to look like. Instead of living in the past or beating myself up for the past, it was more like empowering myself to make better choices
mm,
and also being like forgiving if and
yeah.
when I slipped up because I knew that was going to happen. Um, Another thing that really helped me was having a friend that I could talk to about it
Mm,
because eating disorders are something that most people never talk about with anybody because it is very shame based. We feel ashamed of ourselves. We feel embarrassed. It's
yeah,
like a dirty little secret.
yeah.
And so many people have, even if it's not an actual eating disorder, a disordered relationship to food.
Mm,
And I mean, it consumed my entire mind. Like everything that I thought about revolved around food. And so when I finally had a friend who was actually going through the same thing, and I could talk to her about it and we could support each other, that was way different than talking to a therapist about it. Like this was a peer, this was another girl that I could talk to that was going through the same thing. And
mm.
having that level of support from a peer is invaluable. I don't think that I could have healed without that relationship.
Mm. Oh, wow. That is so beautiful. Community, community,
Yeah.
community, community.
Yeah. And one of the things that I feel about Instagram and about TikTok and social media is that it can be a place where people can, I'm sure, I mean, I do it too, compare, right? We go
Mm,
on, see people that are super fit and they look like their life is perfect, and we can fall into that trap. But on the other side of it is that people are talking about these things now that when I was going through it, no one was
mhm,
talking about it. Even
mm,
the way that we talk about mental health now, and we weren't talking about that 15 years ago. And it's huge. I think there's a huge opportunity for people to find and connect with people that have been through it and have gotten
mm.
to the other side, and they can see examples of that, which is something that I never had.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love that. What a completely different perspective from the one we always hear about social media being evil, and like I just love that. That's yours, and it's really beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. I mean, I still have a love-hate relationship with
Yeah.
social media, but I try to view it as, like a tool that we can use to help
Mm,
others.
to help others. Now, how did or how has you spirituality played a role? Okay, but you mentioned you did meditation and you spent a lot of time just journaling and getting to know
Yeah.
yourself. And yeah, so we've touched on that. How did,
But there's
how,
also, yeah, there's one other part of that.
yeah.
So I grew up in a non-religious household.
Mm,
My mom had been Catholic and kind of removed herself from the Catholic Church because she thought it was, a little too rigid with their beliefs. Anyway, I grew
yeah.
up non-religious, and I didn't have a concept of faith in something bigger than me.
Mm,
And I think I always thought it was me versus the world. I had to take care of myself. No one was going to take care of me.
mm,
Like I put so much pressure on
on
myself.
yourself.
That was one of the big things about spirituality that I learned that helped me was that there is the universe, which I believe is, source, you can say God, you can say whatever you want,
Mhm.
that is there to help us. We have our higher self, we have spirit guides, we have a loving universe that wants us to succeed and be happy and be healthy. And that was something that I just had no concept of that. And that helped me tremendously. That helped me to
Mm.
give the burden, share the burden with
Yeah.
some besides just me, and saying like, I'm a failure because I can't do it by myself.
And something bigger than you also, like that feeling of, yeah, almost like it's like a protection. I can't put it into words, but like, yeah, like a feeling of
Yeah.
like, yeah, something's got you out there. Like you're not doing this alone, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that was huge. That was huge for me.
Mm. And would you say that a lot of societal pressures still contribute to a lot of low or negative body self-image and self-esteem? Would you say that still plays a role?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I will say one thing, like as I've gotten older, I've just, you just start to care a little bit less as the years go by about what people think about you. So my heart goes out to like the younger
Oh, yeah.
generation where all they know is, social media. One thing that, we know now that I didn't know then was how heavily photoshopped and altered all these pictures are. So I think that's great that that is,
Out
like
there.
common knowledge now.
Yeah.
People know that what you see is not reality, because that was what I was comparing myself against. So I could see that, but also I had a very limited view of what I was exposed to. And now we're exposed to hundreds of millions of people all around the world. And I think it's just really important to celebrate and connect with our individuality and our, like the unique gifts that we have, because the comparison trap is like
Mm.
never ending, and like instead of looking outward, like making the time to look inward and to really like connect with and appreciate yourself and your purpose, like I think that's another thing that helped me tremendously, was like aligning with a purpose and saying like, I'm here for a reason. I'm here to do something to help other people, whatever that is, contribute in a way. And I think that was something that I had also been disconnected with for a long time, because my only focus was like my body.
Your
And
body.
when I say that, I mean, like for people that don't have an eating disorder, it is all consuming. I mean, you think about it from like the moment you wake up to like the moment you go to bed.
Mhm.
It really does like take over your whole life. So
Mm.
it's a very, very, very hard chain to break
Mm.
and be done.
Oh my goodness. It's absolutely, I like feel I don't know, I just resonate so much with this story. Maybe perhaps I'm doing a lot of self-reflection as I'm listening to you, and I'm just like, wow. Um I'm so glad that I've found this work myself, and through it have also gotten to a point where I've reframed my relationship with exercise and with food and why I do it, because at some point I was punishing myself. I was just doing it because I was chasing something, chasing a look, trying to be somebody, like who I really wasn't. And I just had to like get real with myself and be like, listen, why am I really doing this? Is it to make myself feel good, or am I just gonna like be here trying to fit this mold that I don't even know what it looks like? Is it even out there? And just release myself of that and just allow myself to reframe how I exercise, how often I exercise, how I feel when I go, when I allow myself to rest, and just like really overhaul the whole thing so that it can be something that's more nurturing and more supportive, because it is like, I know you still exercise. How often do you?
Like every day.
Yeah.
But in different
In different
forms,
ways,
like
yeah.
like I've embraced the resting and the receiving
Mm,
and letting my body recover, which for a long time was hard to do.
same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you go on your walks, your 10,000 steps. and
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Walking has been such a blessing for me. I started really
Mm.
walking last year. And before I was like, if I'm not running, then what's the purpose? But it's the walking is like, first of all, like the low impact cardio is
Mm,
great for
it's
your
really
heart, for
good.
your body, for your health. And plus I'm outside, I'm not,
Mm.
and not to say that I never, do steps on the treadmill, but I live in San Diego. I live right next to
Mm.
the beach, and it's like, it's special. It's really magic to be able to
Yeah.
connect with nature every day, to be outside. And I like to listen to books or podcasts or something, and or maybe just nothing at all, just
Mm.
like be with myself for an hour. And I mean, that really helped me a lot. And I saw changes in my body, which was great, because I was like, wow, I don't have to push myself to the max every
Yes.
time. Your body reacts to gentle forms of exercise as well. And I think
Yeah.
that's probably a common misconception that people have. I actually was a trainer many years ago, for a
Ah.
couple of years. And yeah, I would hear that from people, where it's like they think that they have to go like, all out. It's going to be really hard. They're going to be
Mm.
sore. Like it's just going to be like uncomfortable. And like,
Mm. And that's just what they
yeah,
have
it's
to put up
uncomfortable,
with.
but like the more uncomfortable thing is like just the mindset shift, I think, around it,
Mm.
and I know personally, I mean, I also have family members that have never lifted a weight the day in
Mm.
their life. And my heart like hurts for them, because I know how
How
amazing it
good.
feel,
Yeah.
like how it feels in your body to
Yeah.
feel your muscles, to
Yeah.
feel good. So I think the focus for me is feeling good from the inside out. Like instead of focusing on our external appearance, we
Mm.
focus on the inside. The outside always reflects the
But
in,
yeah.
as within, so
So
without.
without.
And I feel like if we can focus on ourselves, on our inner light, like that's what shines, that's what makes us beautiful.
I love that. I love that so much. Mm. So in your coaching practice, you do coaching, right?
I do. Mhm.
Yay. And you do one-on-one and I group not yet, right? Just one-on-one for now.
No, yeah, just one-on-one for now. And I've actually been focused for the last year and a half or so on more just connecting to like higher self, learning about spirituality, manifestation, because those are things that I love very much. And just more recently, I've decided, like, as a matter of fact, when I very, very, very first decided that I wanted to coach, it was because I wanted to help anybody, one person. I said, if I could help one person heal from what I went through with
Yeah.
my eating disorder, then like that's all I want to do.
Mm.
And then I started focusing on other things, because I felt like they were just like easier to talk about instead of talking about these things, because this is a deep subject. And it requires me sharing my story, which I don't think I had been ready to do in my
Mm.
early like coaching days.
Mm.
But I'm really like feeling that call now. I just know it's so needed. I know there's so many people that are going through this. I even just posted something on my story yesterday and got so many replies, and in my DMs, like, I'm dealing with this. I deal with body image
Mm.
struggles, issues. Like, I think it's I think it's more of the like anomaly if you don't deal with this thing than if you do. I think in some way, almost all of us
We
have
all do,
have dealt
yeah.
with this.
We all
And I
do.
think that we have tools available to us, internally, that we can connect to, that can
Mm.
help us heal. And yeah, like I said, just connecting to my spiritual self was the one thing that like really made a difference, versus being on, years of therapy and medication and all this stuff. It just like wasn't doing it for me. So I'm really excited to take this new direction. I'm
Mm.
also creating a like a self-guided course
Nice.
on how to, like how to heal body image, and and disordered relationships to body and food and exercise, that I think is going to be great for people that maybe want another resource that's more like self-paced or self-guided, because this is very personal work, and I
Definitely
think that
is
this is going to be an excellent alternative for people that just want to be able to do this on their own. But
on
of
their
course, I'm
own.
always there to help.
Yeah. I was gonna say with some coaching, with an option
Yeah,
for
yeah.
coaching.
Yeah, because I do, I mean, like I said, like, when you have a community, if you have someone that's been through it to talk to, it makes such a big difference.
Mm. And how has manifestation played a role in Sarah's story? Like, how has that
Oh.
woven in?
So I think, like, the first thing that we learn when we learn about manifestation is, like, we are worthy, right? We are worthy of everything that we desire, that we can dream of. And I think that years of talking down on myself and saying that I'm not worthy, or I'm only worthy if, like,
Mm,
conditionally, when I started to rewire that in my brain and say, no, like, I'm worthy no matter what, and I deserve everything. And it's nothing is off limits for me. And when I really started to, like, reprogram that in my brain, I started to manifest, like, literally everything that I wanted. And it's, it's just, that's the beauty of it, is that it's available to everyone if we allow ourselves to believe it and have trust and faith, and if we're open to receiving it. I think a lot
mm,
of times we block ourselves from even believing that we can, or that we're
yeah.
worthy. And so, like, to me, that's the biggest thing about manifestation, is that deep belief that, like, we are worthy.
I think that's one element that I continue to work on ever since it's been a thread, some instances you're like focusing on one thing. At one point it was my relationship with money, but this worthiness feeling and also doubt is one that has been like a constant weave that's been following me since I started doing this work. And it's like I'm just always like trying to shake it off, like, come on, get off me, like leave me alone. And doing as much belief work and really also like just putting myself in those situations where I am doing things I never thought I could ever do, and like shaking in my boots and doing it anyway, and just like, sort of putting yourself out there and taking those inspired actions, because it's often terrifying. It's so scary. Um, it's really terrifying. Doing the work is like, I'm always like, no wonder nobody's doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't call it work for nothing. But on the other side of it is, like, also, learning and accepting and programming, like, that we're supposed to have fun. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be, we're here on earth to enjoy our time here and have fun. And like, if everything feels like work and a struggle,
Mm,
like, that sucks. But, like, there's the other side of it where it's like, yeah, like, as you overcome, these certain shadows, stories, limiting beliefs, it's like you go up, like, a hill, and then, like, you get to
yes.
coast for a little bit, like, you get a new vantage point. You get to see, like, a whole new life and world. And then it's like there's going to be another lesson that comes up. There's always
Yes.
going to be something else to work on, but you get to, like, experience life at, like, a next level of ease, of,
Mm,
like, peace. And I think a lot of us, me especially, in that time, was like, I was so afraid of, like, of encountering or working on any of those demons, because it's going to be uncomfortable and scary, that I kept myself, like, way lower on my potential than and even in my heart, like, I knew that I had more potential to be doing more, to be happy, to be creating,
mm.
you know, to be connecting. We fear cycle. So yeah, scary, and it's work, but, like, it's so worth it on the other side of it.
It really, really is. You're frozen. Okay, you're back. You're back. I loved how you said you see things from a new vantage point each time you kind of level up, because I recently had a moment where I leveled up, so to speak. I would like to think. I When I went to this 10-day silent meditation experience, it was so confronting. I remember one of the days, on day 2, I just wanted to run. I was like, get me out of here. I want my mommy and my daddy. Like, it was like just terrible, kicking and screaming. And it took so much for me to stay. I plotted my exit so many times, even though I was in a different country. I was like, it doesn't matter. I'll just book an Airbnb and I'll just be anywhere but here. Like, so it took so much to stay, but it was so worth it. And a part of me too, maybe that was my ego, that was really curious to see the experience play out in its totality. So like part of me was like, we're staying, like we're not going anywhere. But the other part of me was like, we're going. So
Yeah,
yeah.
this is awful. Yeah, so it can feel like that, right? It can
Mhm.
feel like this sucks. I don't want to do this, and that's okay. I think we
Mm.
all have those feelings, and that's okay too. Like, I think something that really helped me when I was learning about this is that like healing is not linear. Like it's a spiral, and like it's not gonna feel like kittens and rainbows all the
Yeah.
time. It's like it's gonna suck, but then it's gonna get better, and then it's gonna suck, and then it's gonna get even better. Like,
Yeah.
so keeping that in mind helps for
That
sure.
really, really does help. And that's exactly what those 10 days were like bad, good, bad, good. At one point, I had such a great meditation experience, like a good hour. And I was like, I got up and I was so blissful. I was like, oh, life, like so beautiful. And then the one day I was like crying again because I wanted to leave. So I was like, it was just all over the place. But that's pretty much how healing looks like. It's not pretty all the time, but it's so worth it because the quality of life that you're living, um, like most of the time, it gets really improved. And for that for me, that's really worth it. Like how you move through relationships, how you enforce your boundaries, how you take care of yourself, how you love on yourself, your relationship with food, etc. All of that gets improved through this work, and that's just so rewarding. It's so beautiful. So,
Yeah.
if anybody out there listening and watching is struggling, and like you said, I think it's really something a lot of us listening can relate to, and can just have a moment where we reflect and we're like, oh my gosh, that was probably something, and that I just didn't pay any attention to. What would you say? What would you share to people listening to help them? Begin to improve their relationship with food, begin to improve their body image, and if there are any practices that you recommend, please share them with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the most powerful practices is self-talk, is noticing that inner critic in your brain and being mindful of that, because
Mm,
I think a lot of times it's like just a soundtrack in our brain that we don't identify as separate. Like that's not us. That's our ego, or that's the voices of other people that we think are judging us. So that connection to like our true essence, our true like highest self,
mm,
which again for me I found through meditation. But that's the first thing, is like
mm,
quieting that voice, being able to recognize that that's not truth.
mm,
Another practice that really helped me was doing mirror work,
mm.
and this involves sitting ideally like with not a lot of clothes on. You could
Yeah,
wear bra, underwear, shorts, but I mean where you can see your body.
yeah.
And actually Sabby introduced this practice to me.
Ah,
She was my coach several years ago, my self-love coach, so she
oh,
helped me a lot.
wow.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, it's like you sit and you look at yourself in the mirror, and like just touch different parts of your body, especially ones that you don't like, and
Mm,
you give yourself lots of love. You just say, I love you, regardless of, the rolls on your belly or your gray hair or any perceived imperfection that you have,
Yeah.
like accepting it and being grateful for your body, because we have these beautiful bodies that do so much for us. And I don't think we give them enough gratitude. And so, like, just cultivating that practice of acceptance and love for ourselves and gratitude for everything that our body does for us is a
Yeah.
huge, game changer. And I know the first time I did that, I just could not stop crying. Like, I'd
Mm.
never done that before. It's very powerful to like just
Yeah.
look at yourself and look at your face. I mean, we know ourselves better than, anybody on this planet. And why are we so mean to ourselves?
Mm.
Like, instead, really just starting to give ourselves lots and lots of love, unconditional love, not if
Yeah.
I lose 5 pounds or if I made it to the gym 5 days a week, like, regardless of anything, giving ourselves the same love that you would give to a child or a pet or
Mm.
something.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that so much. Do you do your meditations guided or are they you sitting in silence?
So, both.
Mm.
I've used apps. The first app that I used was Headspace, which I think is a very
Yeah, I
beginner
agree.
friendly app to use. Then I was doing it on my own for a while. Then I was using Waking Up,
Mm.
which is another great one where gets more into like the philosophy of consciousness and
Mm.
really,
Mm.
examining consciousness, which is great. I actually just now let that subscription run out because I want to start
Mm.
going into more like silent
Yeah.
meditations.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's great if you want to use something that will help you, then like
Mm.
absolutely do
For
that. I
sure.
think a lot of times people get very nervous about the idea of sitting in silence or sitting with their thoughts. And it's definitely not about stopping your thoughts. Like, that's never going to happen. That's just not the way our brains work.
Mm.
But it's about being the observer of our thoughts. And I think we, especially with eating disorders and disordered eating, we become so identified with and as our thoughts. So just having that separation of like, I'm not my thoughts, I am this objective observer of them, helps
Mm.
so much.
It's so true. It's really, really the most. I can't say I've gotten that from anything other than meditation as well. Like it's been, for me, my practice has been similar. I started with guided and then eventually, now going to the retreat, just it was silence. We were just sitting there in silence. So that now feels so nice to just have nothing and then like really, really see the thoughts. It's like I see them. I'm like, oh, there it could. Like landing in and then I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do with you? Am I gonna entertain you? And we're taught to not to like chase them away or like want to change it back to nothing so quickly, but rather letting the thought just kind of hang around, see what it is, what it's about, and see if you want to do anything with it or not, and then like sending it back and coming back to your breath. But I just I loved it so much. It was really that separation of self from thought. That was one of my intentions going in, and I definitely was able to like level that up.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've been wanting to do a Vipassana retreat. It's on
Oh
my
my gosh,
vision board.
there must be so many amazing centers around where you are.
I'm sure there are. It's just more like getting the 10 days to do it. But yeah, I would
Hmm.
love to. And another, that made me think of an analogy that I heard early in my meditation practice was like to imagine thoughts like clouds. Like if you look outside, there's clouds that are going by,
Exactly. Yeah.
and like the clouds are going to come, thoughts are going to come. One cloud isn't good and another cloud isn't bad, right? Like all clouds are neutral.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with our thought, but we assign meaning to them.
Yeah.
But like that's where we get ourselves in a trap, and then when we can just be that observer of like, oh, like,
Hmm.
what is this thought trying to tell me or feel or
Hmm.
whatever? And then just like let it go. Like it's
Yeah.
gonna go.
It's gonna go. It's gonna go. It's gonna pass. Oh, this has been so lovely, Sarah. Thank you so much for your time. We're about wrapping up. I want to touch on my closing question for you. So, I want to ask you, based on your experience, your personal journey with disordered eating, low self esteem, and working yourself up to this confident, badass queen that you are today, what would you offer my listeners today to help them step into their own power so that they can live a more empowered life in regards to their body image and their self love?
That our like the thoughts that we have around ourselves and our value, and just starting to to recognize our worthiness has nothing to do with our appearance, and getting clear on what our values are, and living a life that's more aligned to our values that make us feel good, like from the inside out,
Mm,
and just focusing on nourishing ourselves internally with food. And listen, I'm all about balance. Like, I eat burgers and french fries and
yeah.
pizza and all the things. So
Ice
that's a
cream.
huge thing. Yes. I mean, and that's it's a beautiful place to be able to get to that without having any guilt.
Yeah.
So I would say, as be very gentle with yourself is, I think the first thing is stop being so hard on yourself.
Mm,
Be gentle with yourself. Talk to yourself like you would a friend that
yeah.
you really care about. And give yourself a lot of grace. This process is not overnight. It
Mm,
takes time. It takes work to reprogram these thoughts and stuff, but it is so worth it. And I am living proof that you can overcome the depths of an eating disorder and live a balanced, fit, healthy life.
mm. Oh, beautiful. Yay. Oh, thank you so much for sharing your story with me and with us today, Sarah. It's been so lovely chatting to you. I'm just
Thank you so
so
much for inviting me. It's a great conversation.
yeah, it was really, really lovely. I loved hearing your story because I was always curious. Because honestly, first of all, you don't look a day over 30. So I'm like, how did she get all this life into her? Like, there's.
Yes, see, and that's the thing is it truly comes from the inside out, I swear. If you're stressed all the time and I mean, stress ages you like crazy,
Mm,
first of all. So managing stress is huge. And if we don't need to put there's enough stress out there, right? We don't need to put any extra stress on ourselves. So
mm,
that's another beauty, I think, of doing this work is giving ourselves lots of ease and grace and play, and
for sure.
connecting to inner child. I know at the very beginning you kind of mentioned inner child, and I
Yeah.
think that's a huge part of it, is connecting to our inner child and that life force within us.
Beautiful. Oh, thank you
Yeah.
so much, Sarah.
Welcome, thanks for
Um, this
having
was so lovely. Thank you so much for tuning into today's podcast episode. It was so lovely having Sarah here. I'm going to leave the details to get in touch with Sarah in the show notes. Reach out to her. And you've heard how you can take yourself from where she was to where she is today. And that space in between, Sarah can help you bridge that gap. So I would definitely say reach out for coaching, reach out for advice, reach out and just tap into her energy, give her a follow. And yeah, we'll catch you in the next episode of the Empowered by Ems podcast. Ciao.